biggest thing that I've experienced in my time at Southern Cross is what vet and vet learning can bring to the confidence of young people, irrespective of which course area they're working in or from.
Now, on behalf of the conveners, I would like to thank you all for coming today. We have people who have come from all over the state and speakers who have flown in nationally. Gathered here today are vet educators from all the school sectors, as well as private RTOs and TAFE. We have representatives from ASQA, NESA and government, as well as a number of sponsors, and I'd like to mention them. My Gateway, Cengage, Training Resource Solutions, Didasco Learning Resources, Accelerate, Sydney Trains, MWLP and Australian Training Products. These sponsors all provide an invaluable service to the vet sector, so please have a chat with them during the breaks and we thank them for their support. We as educators really need to be proud of the role that we play in engaging secondary school students in practical and meaningful education that equips them with industry recognised skills while exercising and expanding minds and imaginations. This will help students to realise their talents, passions and purpose in life. Quality delivery of vet in schools is an important component of our national skills development and its flow on to our competitiveness as a nation. The vision for the Vet in Schools Forum is to support this unique delivery of vet in schools by bringing together educators from the three schooling sectors as well as other relevant stakeholders in a friendly and collegial environment of a school setting. In doing so, we intend to foster continuing professional development for vet in schools, where there is the opportunity for networking, to promote the sharing of ideas and practice across all sectors, and to encourage and recognise excellence in vet. With this in mind, the forum's conveners from the Australian College of Educators, the Teachers Guilds of New South Wales, MWLP and I are truly passionate about serving the vet in schools sector and the wonderful contribution that you all make. This forum is not about any particular organisation or individual. It's all about you who are gathered here today and the wonderful contribution that you all make to our sector. We as a collective can work together to champion vocational education as a valid and worthwhile pathway. We all have a critical role to play in shaping the workforce of the future, a workforce that requires academic and vocational education to be partners working effectively together. VET is a wonderful option for all students, both gifted and those who face learning challenges. I can't think of a better way to prepare young people for the world of work than through our unique platform of VET subjects offered through a school environment. So, having been set the challenge of preparing young people to fulfil the needs of our country, we should be striving to better our practice on all levels. We need events like this to be able to share and to collaborate. We are here to change the lives of many and we should be proud. I trust that you will all be truly inspired and informed during your participation in the 2018 Vet in Schools Forum. The Honourable Karen Andrews, Assistant Minister for Vocational Education and Skills, was invited to open the 2018 Vet in Schools Forum as she did last year. It was her intention to be here in person this morning, but unfortunately was not able to make it. The Assistant Minister has been a wonderful supporter of the Vet in Schools Forum, and we thank her for her support. She has instead sent this video message for us this morning.
I'm sorry I can't be with you in person, but I didn't want to miss the opportunity to address your forum. School is naturally the best time to share with students the opportunities that vocational education and training can provide them. And of course, VET has an important role in preparing students to successfully transition from school to employment and sets students up for a bright future, providing real skills for real careers. To achieve all this, we need our education and training systems to be responsive to the realities of the workplace. And the reality is, our workplaces are changing. New technologies are changing the way we work and will continue to do so. The expectations for people entering the workforce today are far different to those from 10 years ago or even 5 years ago. The Coalition Government is committed to preparing students for the jobs of today and the jobs of the future. Whether they be technology-focused jobs with a foundation in STEM, high-value services, or in the trades, there are many options available and many pathways to work towards. If we're going to achieve all this, we need to strengthen school and employer collaboration to ensure students have the opportunity to acquire those in-demand skills. It also means we must build each student's career management and navigation skills for the long term, allowing schools to better transition students from education into employment or further education, secure in the knowledge that they're prepared for the workplace. I know that vocational education provides a pathway to a rewarding career, and if you'd like to learn more about how vocational learning is delivered to Australia's high school students, I'd recommend you take a look at the online framework Preparing Secondary Students for Work. For a long time, there's been a lively discussion in Australia about university as the first choice for many school leavers. It's an important conversation to have, but university is only one avenue, and there are others which may appeal more to many students. While it's fantastic so many people now have access to university, it's also important that the path our students choose is the right one for them, whether it's university, VET, or perhaps through an apprenticeship. That's why supporting VET in our schools is so important, because it exposes students, parents, and their influences to alternative pathways which lead to rewarding, successful careers. An Australian school-based apprenticeship allows students to undertake a part-time apprenticeship while still at school. Students are able to get the full apprenticeship experience without necessarily overcommitting themselves. They work for an employer, they earn a wage, and their efforts go towards a qualification at the certificate, diploma, or advanced diploma level. This is a positive step in the right direction as we continue to raise the awareness of VET and the many pathways available. And the Coalition Government is committed to showing the way with the Real Skills for Real Careers campaign. This government-led initiative is a concerted effort to unify the sector around a core message that sums up what the sector is all about, and it's simple. VET is about real skills for real careers. The campaign also involves our VET alumni and partnered organisations, and together we're reaching students and the people who can influence their career choices, which of course includes all of you here today. Our alumni have found career success through VET and act as a shining example of where VET can take you. The message is getting through, and combined with other important policies, such as the Skilling Australians Fund, we expect to see the VET sector bounce back and the number of new apprentices to grow. I encourage you to contact some of our Australian apprenticeship ambassadors, which you can do through the website australianapprenticeships.gov.au. Working with them, we want to empower you to promote VET and the many benefits that can be gained through this career pathway. Young people are so often inspired by the adults they interact with while at school, so our educators and trainers are key influencers. But we can all play a part in setting young people up for success by doing what we can to spark their imagination, to see the potential in the world around them, and to help them see the possibilities for what they can become. When great things happen for students at school, that sets them on the path to a great future, and we all benefit.
But this morning, I'm pleased to welcome ASHLEE HODSON, who is part of the VET alumni. And she was the Australian Apprentice of the Year for 2013. So please welcome ASHLEE HODSON.
So in 2012, I commenced a records management traineeship with Bankstown City Council. Prior to this, I'd been working in retail for a large retail chain and had enrolled in a Bachelor of Arts pathway to teaching secondary at Western Sydney University. A year and a half into my degree, I realised that it wasn't the right pathway for me. Not because I didn't enjoy the degree or the subject areas I selected, but because I was absolutely petrified of public speaking. Now, this wasn't just a slight fear of mine, This was a deep-seated fear that at the time I didn't know how to overcome. My fear was so bad that I would complete 10 weeks of a 15-week course, be sitting on a distinction or high distinction average, and I'd be required to give a presentation as part of my final assessment, and I just wouldn't show up. So you should be glad that I'm here today. I would throw away 10 weeks of hard work, all for one moment of being afraid to give a presentation. After a year and a half of doing this, I decided I still didn't have the skills or support network to overcome my fear, so I quit my degree. At the time, I felt really disappointed in myself and felt like I had let everyone around me down, because all the advice that I'd received up until that point was that university was the pathway to a successful career. And I was also disappointed because I was the only one out of my triplet siblings who made it into university following our schooling. Despite my feelings of disappointment, I still made the decision to leave, and I continued to work in retail after I quit my degree and tried searching for general administration jobs, because I believe that general admin skills were foundational for any type of work. I searched and went for job interview after job interview, and I continued to get told that I didn't have the required level of experience or skill, even for a junior role. And so one day my dad found the perfect opportunity for me, and that opportunity was the Records Management Traineeship at Bankstown City Council. I thought this was perfect for me, as it would allow me to work and earn a wage, and also study a nationally recognised qualification. As part of my traineeship, I was required to work 4 days in the office, undertaking a range of records management functions, including scanning, archiving and registering files. On the 5th day of the week, I would be required to attend the South Western Sydney Institute of TAFE to study my Certificate 3 in Business Administration. The combination of on-the-job learning and formal studies accelerated my ability to thrive in the workplace, so I was able to complete my Certificate 3 6 months ahead of schedule. I was really enjoying my traineeship, and I didn't want to waste the opportunity that I'd been given, so I enrolled to undertake further studies in the Certificate 4 in Business Administration, and Certificate 4 in Human Resources. Juggling the two qualifications whilst working 4 days a week wasn't easy, and it was made particularly challenging as my dad underwent a triple heart bypass, my mum was diagnosed with breast cancer, my cousin was diagnosed with prostate cancer, and my grandfather had passed away from leukemia. Despite these personal challenges, I was able to complete both qualifications by the end of the 12-month period. This was largely due to having a really supportive teacher and a really supportive supervisor. In addition to completing my qualifications, 8 months into my traineeship, I was promoted to Corporate Support Officer in the Information Technology team. Initially, I felt uncomfortable doing this because I didn't have any qualifications in IT and I didn't have any background in IT. However, I soon became the #1 responder to calls received by the service desk because a significant portion of the calls were team members requiring assistance with formatting Word documents. By the time my 12-month traineeship had finished, I'd gained hands-on experience in 2 organisational areas in records and IT, and I'd also successfully completed 3 nationally recognised qualifications. As a result of these achievements, I was awarded the South Western Sydney Institute Trainee of the Year, Southern Sydney Region Trainee of the Year, New South Wales Trainee of the Year, and the Australian Apprentice Trainee of the Year. I was also named a finalist for the South Western Sydney Institute's Director's Medal. After being externally recognised as a result of my traineeship, I was promoted to Grants Officer, where I was responsible for identifying state and federal government funding opportunities for Council, and for ensuring that Council met its legislative requirements in regards to planning and reporting under the Local Government Act.
I remember we were being told that career advisors just don't get it. They don't understand vocational education. So we thought, well, okay, why just keep sending them the same old material? Why don't we actually put on a show for them? So at NIDA, back in 2014, we actually, with the help of private training providers and also TAFE, we put on a show. And the idea of the show was to use theatre, film and music to put across the opportunities and the diversity that existed in vocational education. We've been doing these shows now for just over 4 years. We've done them to parents, we've done them to students from years 8 right the way through to years 12. So far in New South Wales, and I have to thank David Collins here today, they've supported this. Over 40,000 students in New South Wales have seen the Skills and Thrills show. And when we started doing it initially, we did it as a live show with a live band, and we worked with Clubs New South Wales to use clubs. So we did it at Wenty Leaks Club, we did it at Blacktown Workers Club, we did it at North's Club, etc., etc. And one of the things that we found, firstly we got parents coming along. And one of the things that we found on the research that we got back is that a lot of the parents did not understand some of the words and the mnemonics that we use, like TAFE and VET. What they did understand was the diversity and the opportunity that vocational education offered. We were then asked if we could take the show on the road, and so we had to convert it to cinema. So what we do now is that we will hire a local cinema, so for example in Tamworth, and we'll go up and put the show on in Tamworth, and we use film, a host, and we use people like Jessie to come along as ambassadors to talk to people, the students, about vocational education and indeed their journey. It's been very successful, and one of the things we look to do is to firstly start dispelling the myths about vocational education, and I often use a couple of people. Catherine Martin is one. Catherine Martin has won 4 Oscars. Where did she go? She went to Sydney Institute. At the age of 6, her mother bought her a sewing machine. By the age of 9, she was making costumes. And then she won 2 Oscars, one for Moulin Rouge and 2 more for The Great Gatsby. She did fashion design at TAFE Institute in Sydney. And then you've got Donna Hay. Donna Hay is one of our most successful book publishers. I mean, she's sold over 4.8 million books. She did commercial cookery, where she went to TAFE. But these people followed their passion, and one of the things that we try to do in the Skills and Thrills show is to show how you can connect a passion with a career outcome. And as we all know, if people are passionate about something, they're more likely to stay connected to it and follow that career pathway than if they were pushed into something that they had very, very little interest in. The other thing we try to demonstrate is that there's a lot of heritage in vocational education. When Tchaikovsky played the Nutcracker Suite in St. Petersburg for the very first time in 1892, Sydney Institute opened its doors to 30 students in 1891. So there's an enormous heritage in vocational education, and indeed TAFE in Sydney. Next thing I'm going to show you is a quick excerpt on one of the things that we do at the cinema presentation, which is about agriculture. And what we try to do in the Skills and Thrills show is to inspire and get kids to ask questions. And to give you an example, we just recently completed some shows last week at Avondale College. I don't know whether you know Avondale College on the Central Coast. They have around about 3,500 to 4,000 students come in to a careers fair, and we use the church. You can get 950 or 1,000 people standing in the church, and we put on a show. We put on the show with a live band. It lasts for about 35 minutes. And I was, after one of the shows that we did in the morning, 3 girls came back because one of them had left a water bottle there. And I said, "Oh, so what did you think?" She said, "Oh, it was absolutely awesome. It's fantastic." I said, "What did it do for you?" And she said, "Well, I came here not knowing and having a clue about what I was going to do when I leave school." She said, "I still don't have a clue what I'm going to do, but the first thing I've seen after this, I've got so many choices, I don't know which one to pick." And that's what we try to do with this, is to actually highlight the diversity that exists within vocational education.
Executive Director of Training Services New South Wales Department of Industry. For those who are unaware, the New South Wales Department of Industry is responsible for government-funded vocational education and training in New South Wales, amongst many other things. Training Services New South Wales is responsible for the implementation of funded programs, including Smart and Skilled, apprenticeships and traineeships, and adult and community education. It undertakes contract management of approved Smart and Skilled training providers and implements quality assurance and performance monitoring to achieve the best outcomes for students. Like me, Some may have had the pleasure of hearing David Collins in connection with the New South Wales Training Awards. This is a wonderful initiative under the Directives Department. So please make welcome Mr. David Collins.
I'd like to begin by acknowledging the Wongal, the traditional owners of the land we're meeting on, pay my respects to elders past and present, and extend a greeting to any Aboriginal people who are here with us today. We're coming up 7 days or so away from NAIDOC Week, and this year NAIDOC Week is on the theme Because of Her We Can. It is this year celebrating the particular achievements and the particular importance of women in Aboriginal culture. And there'll be many things happening, and I encourage you, those of you who have the opportunity to engage in NAIDOC Week activities that are occurring over the next couple of weeks. School-based traineeships are a really good example of what you do, but it's interesting that they are a very small example of what you do. We've got something like 50,000 enrolments in vocational qualifications in years 11 and 12. Of those last year, 2,150 enrolled or were registered as a school-based apprenticeship or apprentice or trainee. So a very, very small proportion of young people who are doing vocational education are doing school-based apprenticeships and traineeships, which is a challenge for us from Training Services New South Wales. We recognise that these qualifications and these young people are getting great outcomes. They are making a transition into employment, post-school employment and training. The school-based apprentices are continuing into their apprenticeships and to gaining their qualifications. School-based trainees are getting that qualification, and most of them either continuing in employment in those areas or are moving easily into further education and training. It's significant, but it is a challenge. It's a challenge for the individuals managing that activity on top of their HSC and on top of the other things they do. It is, I understand, also a challenge for their schools. What we see through the training awards is really interesting, because we see some schools that are obviously doing it really well. They've cracked the code. They know what they need to do to manage that whole arrangement and the pressures of dealing with employers, dealing with training providers, dealing with families, and the whole load around a school-based traineeship. We see time and again the same schools coming up with these excellent candidates who are doing this. We see it also in the broad event schools. I noticed Rose Cox is here, who was our up there. And on the agenda today as well, which is great. Our New South Wales Vocational Student of the Year last year, who, Strathfield? Yeah, so doing a hospitality certificate too at Strathfield. Again, someone who's really achieved highly and is moving on to great things, as you'll hear from her today. There are very, very good things that are happening across the broader vocational education in schools, but there are some challenges. We know that most students who are doing a vocational qualification as part of their HSC aren't making that transition straight into employment and training. Most of them are actually looking at going to university. Most of them are looking at a university pathway, which is valid, perfectly valid. One of the challenges, though, is that most students, a large proportion of students who are doing a vocational course as part of their HSC, aren't actually completing the qualification. There are a large proportion of students who are coming out of school with a statement of attainment, with some very good vocational experience, but not necessarily with that certificate 2 or 3 having completed it. They've done their assessment as part of their HSC, they've got their recognition towards their ATAR, but they haven't necessarily finished the competency assessment necessary to achieve their qualification. What is the purpose of what we're doing in vocational education in schools? What is it we're actually trying to achieve? Why are we encouraging young people to enrol in these qualifications as part of their HSC? What are we trying to get out of it? I think it's a whole lot of things. I think it's different things for different schools, different things for different students. All of them probably valid, but we need to focus on what the outcome is. We need to focus on how we support students to get the benefit from it, including completing that qualification and having a qualification that is going to do good things for them once they make that transition from school into employment. We're now sitting in the Department of Industry, and that gives what we do a very, very strong focus on economic development, a very strong focus on how vocational education can prepare people for moving into jobs, can support people to get better jobs, and can support businesses to develop and prosper, can help businesses to expand, regional economies to improve, so there are more jobs. We see vocational education very much a part of that, and we do see vocational education in schools very much a part of that, of equipping people with the skills recognised through those qualifications to get jobs, to prosper within an economic environment.
MWLP is one of a number of providers that provides work placement for years 11 and 12 students throughout the state. Our footprint is the Macarthur and the Canterbury Bankstown area, the inner Sydney West. We work with about 70 odd schools and some TAFEs, and we also have about 6,500 students that we're required to place across 13 different frameworks. Last year I spoke at the conference about the importance of having ideas around connecting with industry. We've put that to the test this year, where we've formed a very interesting alliance with a number of industry partners, including HTN, which is Hospitality Training Network, Clubs New South Wales, Luke Mangan and his Inspired series, Benchmark, which is an organisation providing front of house support, and we worked particularly with one of our frameworks, and that was the hospitality framework. It's not the only one we're going to be working with. We've got other plans in place for working with that as well. We're lucky enough to have a chef on board as our manager of work placement, Michael Leverett, and Michael generated some ideas in particular, and we formed this really great alliance and partnership with these organisations.
In terms of VET, while the AIS supports all independent schools, we also have an RTO which provides a very specific VET service to schools. So we act as the RTO for just under 3,000 students this year. Within the independent sector, there are a small number of schools that are RTOs in their own right. We also engage with those. And a third part of the service that we provide schools is to support independent schools whose students are accessing external VET through TAFE or private providers. And there are about 1,000 students each year that do that from independent schools.
I could speak at length about Southern Cross. Currently we offer 18 different VET qualifications. Those that are asterisked there on the screen are to Certificate 3 level. About 3/4 of our Year 12 students will pick up what we call a specialisation, or they'll be undertaking a Certificate 3 or a statement of attainment towards Certificate 3 in the Year 12 year. Students typically are doing 3 and in some cases 4 VET courses as part of their HSC. A couple of years ago, the New South Wales Business Chamber put out 3 reports in the space of 6 months, and there's a couple of them quoted there from late 2016. Whilst I read and accepted a great deal of what they had to say, I was somewhat concerned that the criticisms that were being levelled at schools and school graduates and careers advisors may not be universally the case. And so I took an opportunity to contact Stephen Cartwright at the Business Chamber and to say, well, Stephen, whilst there's substance in what you've got to say and validity in some of what you've got to say, not all schools and school graduates are as you would suggest. And to the Chamber's credit, a couple of the staff came out and visited the college, and we've been in a conversation with them since, picking up the question around employability, and particularly to say, if we can demonstrate to the Chamber that in fact our graduates have those things that the Chamber are suggesting that graduates don't, would they be prepared to do some shared credentialing with us?
Part of my role is to go out and find people. You people out here, you're my recruiters. I rely on you to give me the feedback to find the kids. So for all the hard work you do, you put a kid in front of me and we can work with them. We don't expect A-grade students, but if we get a kid who's keen and motivated the rest just falls into place. But it all starts here. And without all your help, we can't progress forward. So we're based in Macarthur. Look us up and give me a call anytime.
You have a really important role in data collection. That was one of my messages last year, and it's a really important message again this year. We have national reporting requirements, and the data actually informs decisions that are made in the vet sector and education sector, and we need you to contribute to that data. As part of your role as teachers and in your school, when you provide information to your admin officers to put in schools online, it's really important data. It's collected on schools online in terms of the activity that the students are doing. And one of the ones that I did want to point out is school-based apprenticeships and traineeships. That's where our data numbers are down because we don't know people are school-based apprentices or trainees. If you have students in your school doing an apprenticeship or a traineeship through you as a school system RTO or through private providers, it's really important that you tick that little button that indicates they're a school-based apprentice or trainee. So keep an eye out on that. I haven't got any slides to show that this year, but if you need some help with that, only too happy to talk to you about it later. It is actually an RTO responsibility. It's all part of a VETMIS and things like that. Some of these words that you may not have heard of before, or some would. But one of the things that's really important for your students is the fact that they have their USI, and the data you put in is what's going to appear as part of their USI transcript. Here's some exciting statistics. In New South Wales last year, we had 165,038 students doing their HSC or doing something towards their HSC. And from that, nearly 1 in 3 students were actually taking a vet course as part of their HSC. That's really exciting. Of those students, over 65,000 enrolments in qualifications. So some students do actually undertake more than one vet course. And just one of the things that has inspired me most this year was the opportunity to go to the Skills Show Australia. And I know a couple of the things that I'm going to talk about are ones that you may have already heard this morning. I guess we're being inspired by the same thing. One of the criticism that actually sometimes comes to NESA is that we only celebrate academic achievement. Some of the achievement of the students who are taking more of a vocational pathway are a bit off the radar. Well, I went to the World Skills Australia along with 34 talented New South Wales students from 27 high schools. And they joined 500 other young people, talented tradespeople, and other secondary school students to compete in the live skills-based competitions. And we did congratulate the World Skills team. We wrote an article in NESA News. How many of you subscribe to NESA News? Oh, good. Lots more hands than I think there were last year, so maybe my promotion last year worked a little bit. It is exciting, and this is the way I can communicate that excitement with you, is through NESA News. I'd love to ring you all up and say, hey, guess what? But it doesn't quite work that way. I couldn't fit the slide with all the schools and all the names on there, but there were those 34 talented students, and I know some of their schools are represented here today, and my heartfelt congratulations to them. A specific question. Anything to do with VET you'll find on one of our 2 pages. We've got our Stage 6 page, you get through from the 11 to 12 tab, or our Stage 5 page through the year kindergarten to year 10. And one of the other things that I'm sure a number of you are probably curious about is the New South Wales Curriculum Review. How many of you have been sort of hearing about it, talking about it, watching out, listening for it? A few hands around the place. A lot of people, when they think of curriculum, they think syllabuses, and they think we're going to change all the syllabuses. Okay? That's not what this is all about. It's bigger and more than that, and we need you to be involved. So it was announced in May by the Premier and the Minister, and it's acknowledging the fact that the world has changed since the last big curriculum review in 1989. That's not saying there hasn't been any reviews, because we've had the stronger HSC standards and a whole lot of other little things in between, but this is looking at the big picture from K to 12. To see that students are going to come out with the skills that they need post-school. We're talking kindergarten to year 12. Is what we are doing what the students need? Professor Jeff Masters, a few of you would have heard of him, he's actually undertaking the review. There's a team being put together and the terms of reference are currently being finalised. Some of you may have even been involved in the consultations of those because they have been out on the road. I can see a few people nodding. The terms of reference are being informed by the key stakeholders. They should be published sometime this month, I would say, so that everyone's able to see that. And there's actually the website where you can actually keep up to date on what is happening with the review. The timeline, people are quite curious about as well. There it is. There is going to be extensive public consultation, and teachers, community, industry, employers, they are key stakeholders that NESA and Professor Masters wants to speak with and engage with. So keep an eye out for those opportunities. I'd love to, it'd be nice if I had a song and dance or something for you to inspire you into the review. It is going to make a difference and we do want you to be involved. I was saying to someone before, it is going to be quite interesting. There's an election in the middle of it all. So that will be interesting, but they've planned the timeframes around that. One of the things you might have been following, if you are a Twitter follower, I've got a Twitter feed you can follow. They've also got one for New South Wales curriculum. And one of the questions they're asking you, go in and onto Twitter, have a look. What is the most important question the New South Wales curriculum review should answer? Okay, that's a current conversation going on under that Twitter handle. So go and have a look. Add your thoughts. Be involved. One of the things that I was asked to do is think about what message would NESA give to inspire and skill, about inspired and skilled. And I actually asked my team, and this is what they said, asked me to pass back, and they knew there'd be a mix of audience. They said, for students, VET as part of the HSE provides students with opportunities to develop their passion, be inspired for the future and gain skills so they are ready to kick off their careers. They will be inspired by teachers who are passionate and skilled in their area of expertise. For teachers, it allows already skilled teachers the opportunity to reinvigorate their career by choosing to teach VET. VET teachers actually dispel the myth that you either choose university or VET because they've done both. And as role models, teachers are living and breathing examples of the importance of lifelong learning, demonstrating to your students that as a job role changes, you need to take up the opportunity to enhance your training skills and experience to meet the needs. And then for the employers, they can inspire students to seek careers in their industry by providing positive work placement experiences and can be inspired by students who show a real interest in and passion for their industry.
So ASQA, since its inception, we've now been operating for about 6.5 years, and for the first 3+ years we were really working on transactional based applications. So, moving applications through, looking at complaints. But in the last 2.5 years, we've really been focused on risk-based regulation. So we're really trying to focus on those providers that cannot sustain quality VET. They struggle to meet the requirements of the standards, and they don't really understand what vocational education is. And we can see that with poor quality in terms of attrition rates and completion rates, and just overall issues that we find within certain industry areas, as well as with certain specific providers through intel and information that we receive. So what we found in the 2017 to 2018 financial year is that most providers struggle to demonstrate compliance at the time of audit. So they're struggling with maintaining assessment, they're struggling with learner support, they're struggling with training and assessment at the time of audit. And that continues to be the case after they're provided with an opportunity to respond. And you'd think in the past, providers were able to respond with simply providing updated policies and procedures and updated assessment tools, and that was sufficient to demonstrate compliance as part of a response to the rectification period. But as most of you would know, we've implemented the student-centered audit approach in the last 12 to 18 months, and that's put a different spin on things. And so the expectation is no longer just providing documents and procedures, but it's actually addressing the impact on learners. So we're wanting to see that not only are you fixing up your policies and procedures, your assessment tools and the like, but that you're actually looking at what went wrong, what was the impact to the learners, and how do we now address that, and what are we going to do to address the impact? And that's through remediation action. So now on our website, we actually have some information, some fact sheets and guides to support RTOs to better understand how to demonstrate compliance as part of this remediation, and how to work with ASQA to provide an appropriate remedial action to address non-compliances. Probably the next area of concern is around trainer-assessor capability. So for trainers and assessors to demonstrate that they have the required competencies to deliver in a particular area. And that's not always that they don't have the ability or the required capability. It's more that they are not able to demonstrate it or provide sufficient evidence to document how they actually support those clauses.
I'd like to thank Russell Bailey from ACE, our president of our Hills Parramatta region, for working with the tremendous ex-president of ACE, Fred Osmond, also now president of the Teachers Guild, and congratulations on working with us. And of course also to David Williams, the CEO of MWLP, for the support. So the three groups coming together again to hold an event such as this and gather such a great mix of people from different sectors